just to thank you and the committee. I can see Raphael there as well. Thank you so much for organizing this. I think this is great. This is what we try to do to showcase the types of research that involve developing economies. I don't know. I kind of struggle with the word developing economies. Developed. So sometimes I prefer to just say the global south versus the global north. Okay. Can you see my slide? Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Excellent. So Dr. Ektekhar asked me to talk about CARISCA, which is a project, not research. So I'm going to be discussing a project that we've engaged in with our partners in Ghana for the last 4 to 5 years. And I think, as you described this in the agenda, this is a good bridge between what happens in the global north and the global south. Just a second. So what was the motivation? What was the motivation? A lot of motivations, a lot of reasons to embark on a project like this. I'll talk about personal motivation and then institutional motivation and what I call the burning platform. Personal motivation, this year actually marks 30 years since I left Nigeria in Africa. I was born and I grew up in Nigeria. I left just over 30 years ago. I think it was actually 2 weeks ago. That was exactly 30 years. A friend of mine in the UK had to remind me, wishing me happy anniversary. And I was wondering, what was that? So I've marked the dates down now. I will never forget the dates that I left Lagos, Nigeria, just over 30 years ago. So personal motivation, I have constantly been connected with Africa. So it's always been a motivation to continue to do research and work with scholars and academics and people in Africa. So that's a personal motivation. Institutionally, in the Department of Supply Chain at Arizona State, our vision is to be a world supply chain university. World supply chain doesn't necessarily mean we don't care about what happens in the United States. We'll start with what happens in Arizona, and then we'll go nationally and, of course, globally. So there's a big motivation in my department to reach out to the rest of the globe. One of the missions, as you can see there, to bring supply chain thought leadership to the world's most pressing problems. And as we've heard today, there's so many problems, so many issues that we experience in the global south. So this is a key motivation for the Department of Supply Chain Management at Arizona State. And then there's what I call the burning platform, which is the third motivation. What do I mean by the burning platform? The need to do something. This is what we see. This is what we see about, I'll be focusing on Africa, by the way, but I'm sure some other regions of the world suffer similar problems. The burning platform, a lot of problems. When you switch on your TV, this is the kind of thing you see. So we have so many issues, so many problems that are abound in this context, that provide opportunities for research, opportunities for problem-solving projects. Sustainability issues. We've heard today about drought in Zimbabwe, wastages in Ghana. All this problem cut across many of the developing worlds. But there are opportunities. Africa, for example, by the year 2050, it is said it's going to have the highest number of youth population in the world. The labor is good. You have young population, and you have increasingly, as we've heard today, increasingly very highly skilled people, talented people. So the labor is attractive. Africa holds the majority of resources, natural resources in the world. And recently, just a few years ago, Africa signed intra-Africa agreements called the ACFTA, Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. So there's an opportunity to do to do stuff within Africa and outside of Africa. Africa is a huge consuming economy. Take Nigeria, for example. Many of the things in Nigeria are consumed, so they are imported. However, increasingly, Africa is becoming a producer economy as well. In other words, the manufacturing base is increasing, production base is increasing. There are lax regulatory environments, which, when you think about it, it comes across as a weakness, but it could also be a strength. It could be a strength because we don't have that much strict regulations like we do have in the United States with the FDA. African countries become a test bed for innovations. So you can actually test a lot of innovations in Africa and do what is now called reverse innovation and bring it to the global north. And of course, we have sustainability and ESG issues, making Africa a very good place to test out research and to produce very, very interesting research problem. And there is progress. We've had so many research studies today. The latest one from India and the one before that as well, focusing on local problems. So there's no doubt that there are so many opportunities to do more with the global south. So based on this motivation, in 2020, Arizona State University Department of Supply Chain Management, we received a call or an opportunity to apply for funding from USAID, and they didn't really specify what they wanted. The only thing they said was, write a proposal, an innovative proposal, and then we'll evaluate it. So we came together, some of my colleagues, and fortunately, we had a prior partnership with the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology in Ghana. And, incidentally, some of the faculty from Ghana were visiting ASU the week we received this call for paper or call for proposals. So we just simply grabbed them, took them into our conference room in the Department of Supply Chain Management. And over 2 weeks while they were around, we crafted this proposal to build a supply chain center, which we coined the Center for Applied Research and Innovation in Supply Chains - Africa, simply called CARISCA. To be honest with you, we didn't know. It was one of those things that we didn't know what the outcome was going to be. But 3 weeks later, we got a letter from USAID. They were inviting us, or they had screened from hundreds of applications, hundreds of proposals, and they invited us for the next stage. We proceeded with the next stage, and then they invited us for the third stage. This third stage was a co-development stage. So we started working with USAID to frame the proposal, and we finally were awarded the proposal right in the middle of COVID 2020 in June 2020. So that's CARISCA. That was how CARISCA started. So the intention of CARISCA, the real CARISCA was designed to focus on 4 key areas. The first one is research. I lead the research part of that, of the project. And then we call that component 1. We have outreach. Outreach is engaging with policymakers in the private sectors and NGOs and governments. And then we have curriculum and training. That's the third component. And later, after a year, we included another one called access and inclusion. This is providing opportunities for underrepresented communities in African countries. So these are the 4 key areas of CARISCA. The first one, I'll just share some examples of what has been achieved in each of those areas, and then I'll open this up for questions. Research capacity strengthening. So the real intention is to develop research capacity. So for example, we hold what we call the Distinguished Lecture Series virtually, and any of the academics here, you are welcome to send me a request to participate in this. you have the opportunity. Usually we have close to 200, 300 virtual attendees. So the intention is to do about 90 minutes of research presentation to these scholars and faculty in Africa. So we do this every other month. Since 2020, we've done quite a few of those. And then we have research workshop. Research workshops typically is a 2-day research presentation and workshop, typically focused on maybe a methodology. My friend here, Mahyar, we went to Ghana together. He went to deliver a research workshop on field experiments and lab experiments, correct? And I can tell you all, it was through that presentation, it was at that presentation that I got introduced to Richard Bosso, and one of the papers that was presented today came out of that. So that is the intent. That is one of the goals of CARISCA, to bring people together, people from the global north and global south, to work together on very, very interesting projects. So we fund research, and that research that it presented today was also partly funded by CARISCA. And then we hold research summit. This is perhaps the biggest activity that we do in CARISCA. We've held 4 summits today. The last one was in Ghana. And next year is going to be, you may want to put it down if you're interested, it's going to be May, our first week in May. And it's likely going to be outside of Ghana. I cannot say yet, but in the next 2 weeks, you'll be seeing the call for papers. So we've achieved quite a lot through the Supply Chain Research Summit. We attract scholars from all over the world now. And it has actually become the largest supply chain and operations management conference in Africa. And then early this year, we started something new. We call it the African Supply Network Research Accelerator. At Arizona State, we have something called CARISCA, run by Professor Tom Choi. CARISCA is the Complex Adaptive Systems Network Research Accelerator. What CARISCA does is to bring interested researchers from all over the world to Arizona State every other year, every 2 years, just to brainstorm on research that is of common interest. I participated in it in Arizona State, so we felt we could do the same thing in CARISCA. And we started this February. We went to Ghana. We brought scholars from all over Africa, 21 scholars. And I think you can see me there. What you cannot see is my broken hand. At the time, I had cast on my hand. So I'm actually happy with this picture. It's hidden, so it's not shown. So we brought these 21 scholars together, and they brainstormed, and we have about 5 projects that they are working on. So we're going to be meeting with them virtually next year to see the progress, and just to help them to be able to take these projects to completion, publishable in leading journals. Component 2, I'll quickly go through 1 or 2 examples. This is an example of what we do here. So the other one, the summit, was mainly for academics, just like our typical DSI conference, POMS conference. This forum is for business professionals. And last year, we held it in Ghana in end of July. Next year is going to be in April. And I can tell you for certain this one is going to be in Accra, Ghana. Okay? And one of the other things that we do as part of the engagement with the public is we established what is called the CARISCA Innovations Lab in Kumasi in KNUST, the university. Again, this was fashioned against our Luminosity Lab at Arizona State. The Luminosity Lab at Arizona State brings together different students from different colleges, science, business, engineering, and they come together, they work on problems, real problems given to them by the industry. We've started the same in Ghana, and so far it's been very, very successful. This is an example of one project that is currently being worked on by the students. If you're from Africa or from developing countries, you'll be familiar with pictures like this. Waste all over the place, insufficient supply, excess demand, unpredictable demand, the capacity is fixed and is limited. So what this project does is to develop sensors, which will go into the bins, for collecting the trash, and also an app. So the app, it's sort of like Uber for waste, So the app opens the market to not just the government collectors, but also private collectors. So you can see the vehicle over there. It's actually, it's a motorbike. It's a motorbike, but it's got a waste collection attached to it. So these are private collectors. So with the app, they have access to collection of some of these waste. This is a very, very interesting project. And we're actually thinking to see how we could maybe get a field experiment out of this. The second interesting one is what is called well-fed. The problem is about post-harvest. It is a major problem in African countries, post-harvest losses. Why? Because lack of refrigeration, poor infrastructure, tomatoes are produced, but they never get to the market because they get, they go bad before they get to the market. So what the team has come up with, this is a prototype. It doesn't look as cool as this, but what they've come up with is very simple solution. You can see this is the real thing that they were building, the prototype, and it helps to sort of preserve and add to the number of days of storage for this perishable products. Also, because it reduces waste, it reduces carbon emission, and it's more eco-friendly, and it helps the farmers. The farmers end up being able to sell than waste or throw away. And then the third one, I'm not really going to go into this, is about training and curriculum. A lot of scholarships have been awarded to masters and PhD. And an example is this one. The very first CARISCA sponsored PhD graduated in May of this year. Okay, so these are some of the things that we've done. Again, what we've done, or what we're doing in CARISCA, is to facilitate, is to provide that context where research can prosper, to try and work with faculty and scholars in Africa to elevate the rigor of their research to enable them to be able to publish in top journals. So this is a summary of some of the achievements of CARISCA as a project. So I'm going to stop there. But the challenge is there's a lot more to do.
Yeah.
So I really want to appreciate the organizers again, because by doing something like this, we are able to bring the focus to those local problems that we have in developing countries and to apply rigorous methodologies to be able to solve it. Thank you.
Thank you